Well, good evening and welcome to Rethinking Rest. I wanted to start just by asking the question, why is it that we would need to rethink rest? And I got a good answer. I thought about this ahead of time. It's mostly because rest isn't working. In our society, rest is not working, and I think some of you are already picked up on it. I'm not trying to define that rest is not working. What I mean by that is the concept of rest in our society is broken. It's fractured, it's splintered, and most of the people don't have any idea where to begin on how to get to a place of rest within the church and outside the church. We see it throughout our society. Oftentimes, even outside the church, we have a hard time, and it seeps in, we have a hard time even understanding why it would be even relevant to pursue rest. In our culture, go, 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 right? So, we are physically tired more than ever before. I'm not denying that. But we just have no idea, I feel, what biblical rest is and how that should interact with our exhaustion. And part of the problem is we've made rest into a cul-de-sac. I don't know, I think you probably know what a cul-de-sac is. A reference in our culture is a street, right? It's a street that turns around and dead ends, but there's a place to turn around at the end. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a bit of a French scholar. I did have 2 years of it in high school. And cul-de-sac is a French term, and it actually means the bottom of the bag. The bottom of the bag. So like you reach into the bag, you've gotten to the bottom, and there's nowhere to go, right? And that's so that makes sense at least. But our conversations about rest, largely within the church, have to do with the concept of Sabbath. And our conversations about Sabbath are cul-de-sac conversations. They don't go anywhere, there's no outlets. And let me explain what I mean by that. We've got so many different definitions of what the Sabbath might be. And a lot of them are based around this idea of the fourth commandment out of Exodus chapter 20. The Sabbath rest, the seventh day Sabbath. And so even within the church, we've got a wide variety of opinions of what that might be, that fourth commandment. Is it, are we being called to go back to the Old Testament idea of a Friday night to Saturday night, because that's what they observed? Or in the New Testament era, is there some sort of a new call to a Sunday Sabbath? That's one view. There's another view out there that talks about it doesn't have to be Saturday or Sunday. It could be any day of the week, depending on what your schedule is. And even better than that, it could be any part of any day, right? So if you could string together 3 hours on a Monday and 5 hours on a Tuesday, and you could string together your Sabbath for the way. And there's even a concept out there that you might have heard this, that I find my rest in Jesus, which sounds great. I mean, that's a great church answer. But what does it even mean, right? What are the boots on the ground practical steps that I would take if I have that view? So our concept and our discussions in the church about what Sabbath is, what about rest is, it cul-de-sacs because we don't have any answers. We feel we get in debates and there's no outlet to that discussion of how we even approach that fourth commandment. In contrast to what a cul-de-sac would look like, a theological cul-de-sac around the fourth commandment, I think what I want this class to do for you is to be able to back out of the cul-de-sac and see what the neighborhood looks like. And really, in reality, it's a theological network of streets. It's a neighborhood, the neighborhood of rest, the way the Bible presents it. And so by the end of this class, what I hope to do is give you a great landscape of what that rest neighborhood, theologically speaking, looks like. And with that idea, we can get to the end and figure out where it is God would have us be in the neighborhood, how it is we find rest. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and one of my favorite movies is The Princess Bride. Have you ever seen it? Yeah, it remains popular even to this day. There's one character in that movie that has a familiar word that he repeats. It's inconceivable. I don't know if you've seen it recently. You can go watch it. He says it so often that at one point in the movie, there's another character who's been with this guy oftentimes and has heard him say this word completely out of context sometimes, because inconceivable means you can't conceive of it. But he often says it with things that are highly conceivable. And so this other character challenges him, and he says this, I actually wrote it down. You keep using that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. Right? And I think that's where we find ourselves in the church today when we're talking about rest. I think we use the term, but I'm not quite sure we know what it means. I don't think it is what we think it is. And so that's what I hope this class really does, is by the time we're done, we can come out the other side, and at least we'll have a landscape of what it is that the Bible says about rest, how it is that we might pursue rest more effectively than maybe we ever have before.